Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. She told me she wanted to open the relationship after 7 years. After 7 years, she told me she wanted to open the relationship. Told me she decided she was poly and wanted to explore that side of her. Tried to frame this as if it's not just her wanting to sleep with other men, by claiming this is an emotional deficiency in our relationship, like that makes it any better. She's been unemployed for 2.5 freaking years. 2.5 years I've worked 50 hours a week to support her ungrateful behind, so she can sit at home and do nothing but play video games and trash talk me to people online, who apparently agree I'm not enough for her. She doesn't clean, doesn't do anything for the 2 damn dogs she brought into the relationship, doesn't do anything for me but unenthusiastic bedroom activity once in a while. She didn't even ask me, this was not a question. She just said that she wanted to open the relationship, and acted like I was just going to have to go along with it. If anything, that's selfish, which is the reason this relationship has been emotionless for some time. She even tried to shame and guilt me when I said I'm not okay with this. Tried to tell me that no one man can fulfill everything she needs. Think of it like a puzzle, you're only one piece that fits to make me whole, and that I need to stop taking it personally. The only funny thing about this whole situation was how quick that manipulative witch changed her tune when I told her to get the F out. Go find her puzzle piece who will support her financially, because I'm done. Her shaming quickly turned to her apologizing and begging me to stay with her. Only funnier thing was when she showed even more emotion, when I told her she can't take the computer I paid for with her when she went to stay with her parents. This was just the straw that broke the camel's back, but it stings nonetheless. Now for the top comments. Glad you realized you should drop her. Sounds like you could have easily done it long ago. Life is short, mate, so crack on however you want and enjoy it. Knew that this relationship was only really benefiting her for a while now. I stayed with her for a variety of reasons, mostly because I convinced myself it was better to be with her than alone. This was just the final wake-up call I needed, that it was, in fact, better to be single than with her. Don't forget to change your locks, otherwise you might come home to find all your stuff has gone missing. Got the locks repinned the day after her butt moved in with her parents. Also, change your bank accounts and credit cards. Good for you, honestly. Yo, I said, F yo, out loud when I saw that he kicked her out, lol. Hate to be the one to tell you this, but based on the post title, her side of the relationship has likely been open before this request. I don't doubt that. I believe she's never cheated on me physically, but I know for a fact she's been messaging guys online who she wants to bang. I could be wrong, maybe she did go and spread her legs around, but wasting any more time worrying about her is time wasted. Go get a test. Yeah, I will go get tested just in case. Next story is titled, I, 28 female, pressured my husband, 26 male, into opening our marriage, and now he is divorcing me to be in closed relationship with his girlfriend. Plus update. Original post. I don't know where to start. After we got married, I finally confessed to him that I am kinda on polyamorous side. It took me days to convince him that it's not just an excuse to cheat, and that he can meet other people too. I wanted us to be one of those cool couples with zero jealousy and toxicity when it comes to the other people. Well, I should have seen it coming. He was depressed for first 6 months. I could see it on him, but I thought he'd be happy for me and hoped he'd realize that this is something good for both of us. After that phase, he became even colder with me, and my attempts to try to get him more involved into our marriage were failing. Then finally, he started seeing someone. It was killing me to see him on the phone with her all the time. He then got a separate bed too. He no longer wanted to even sleep with me, as his girlfriend wouldn't like it, and I felt horrible. A literal stranger was stealing my husband and I could do nothing about it. Then he'd start sleeping at her place more and more often. And now it finally happened. He brought divorce papers. He doesn't even want to speak to me anymore. I tried to tell him that we can close back our marriage if that's what he wants, but he doesn't want to even discuss anything. He just said he wants marriage and kids with her, and that is tearing me apart. What can I do to save my marriage and get back the man that I love? If I knew this would happen, I would never even bring up the idea of opening anything. Now for the advice before reading the update. What can I do to save my marriage and get back the man that I love? You can't. Your husband is done. You need to accept that and move on, no matter how difficult. And please use this as a lesson for future relationships, that it is not at all acceptable to pressure someone into an open marriage against their wishes. It was done when she told him she wanted to duck other guys. I agree. I don't think this is salvageable, as even with therapy both parties need to be willing to try to make it work, and your husband is not. I know it's hard, but try to see it from his point of view. He may feel that you pressured him into something he didn't want to do as an excuse to cheat on him. He may see it all as you cheating on him and have been heartbroken, hence the depression, and even then, you didn't offer to close things up. So, he got over his heartbreak and found someone else who was monogamous and is moving on. I think if you had started the conversation when he was in the depression, it might have been salvaged, but you waited until he had moved on with someone else to try. It's okay to be polyamorous, but equally it's okay for him to want monogamy. It was never okay to pressure him into it. Your marriage was over the minute you pressured him into opening it. Sign the divorce papers, there is no way to save it. He basically just stayed with you out of convenience until he found someone better suited and less selfish. What did you think would happen? You can't honestly be that stupid that you didn't realize what the consequences would be when you forced an open marriage on him. You went about this completely wrong, saw he was depressed for 6 months and ignored it, and waited too long to finally decide to do something about it. Learn from this and let him go. That part is what bothers me. So, she saw he was extremely upset for 6 months and still pushed it. She didn't mention who she dated or what she did in that time. It wasn't ethical, it was selfish on her part till he moved on. You said you finally confessed to him that you wanted to be a polyamorous relationship after getting married. Which means you knew before getting married, but waited until after to be open with him about something that is knowingly a deal breaker for a lot of people. Lying by omission is still lying. You based your marriage on a lie of commitment and monogamy. Withholding information that prevents your partner from making an informed decision is selfish and morally wrong. There is no getting your marriage back. It seems to me that when you opened the marriage, he spent 6 months grieving your relationship and dealing with the emotional equivalent of a breakup. Then he moved on and clearly took her feelings seriously if he stopped sleeping in the same bed as you. There is no getting him back, he's moved on. Based on what you wrote, your marriage ended months ago. Unfortunately, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Now for the update. I signed the divorce papers and will not ask for anything from my husband, just hoping that he will no longer hate me. As much as I regret my decisions, I cannot go back in time now. I love that man and I wish I didn't take him for granted. I was just blinded by excitement and new experiences that the open marriage brought us, just I'd always come back to him. While he stopped to be intimate with me and even bought separate bed after he found a girlfriend, and he soon even moved into her place. We don't have any property we got together, and I don't want anything from him in the long run either. This will be my last gift to him, and this is the least I can do for him after all I did to him. I could tell he was depressed, but I thought he'd be happy for me. Oh man, this is my favorite Reddit trope. Let the schadenfreude reign over me. Allow me to wallow in it, to luxuriate in the forbidden pleasure. This is what killed me. Like, what the heck were you expecting? For 6 months you made him miserable to make yourself feel better. I mean, she glosses over exactly what was making him depressed, which I'm assuming is her going on a lot of dates and being away or distant. Shocker, OP pressures their spouse into an open relationship and it ends badly for them. Her own selfishness ended the marriage. In her second post she acts as if she deserves sympathy, but I don't even think the whiners and r/support for waywards would support her. Even the way she bought it up originally was awful. You don't wait until after you marry someone to reveal you want an entirely different kind of relationship, not to mention one most people would not be okay with. She clearly deluded herself on multiple levels to serve her selfishness. I came here to say something along these lines too. Why wait till you're married? That's not fair and truly some relationship-ending garbage. Because if she had told him beforehand, she'd have lost him for sure. She fished in the ocean for a trout, and when she got something else, she decided it would do. Now for the last story. My fiancé confessed about sleeping with her ex-boyfriend as his last request before he died of cancer. His name was Tom, age 34, and he passed away a month ago. They had a long-term relationship that lasted for 6 years. She was the one who ended it, and I met her 2 years later. When I heard of his passing, I was shocked, as I didn't even know he was sick, and my fiancé never mentioned it, though she had a habit of bringing him up once in a while. After the funeral, I noticed that she became distant and quiet. She'd refused to even make contact with me. I kept thinking she must be in the midst of heavy grief, but I still felt something was not right. I tried asking her to open up, and she refused and sort of shut me out for a while. Yesterday I came home and found her crying. She refused to let me sit next to her or comfort her in any way, even refused to let me talk to her. I didn't know what to do other than to wait till she had calmed down. She then told me she had something to tell me. She started talking about Tom and his illness, and who was there for him and who wasn't, and so on. She then told me she was contacted by him 3 weeks before his death, asking to see her. She said she felt hesitant, but then went. What she said next shook me. She said he told her about stopping his treatment for a while and how he felt alone and discouraged. He proceeded to ask if she could spend one night with him as his final wish before he passed on. She said she thought about it a lot and felt conflicted, but eventually agreed. They spent the night together. I know what night it was now, and ended up doing it. She started crying again, swearing that she didn't feel anything that night nor afterwards, and swore that she did this out of guilt towards him. And now she's feeling 10 times more guilty. I'm in an utter shock. I have no idea how to react or what to say. She keeps pleading with me to be understanding of the position she was put in, and not wanting to be dismissive of his request in his last days. I still don't think it's an excuse to do what she did. She said it wasn't about her or how she felt, but about Tom. I still feel like she's wronged me and betrayed my trust and damaged the bond we have together. She hasn't stopped begging me to understand and forgive so we could move past this, but I feel like I'm not the same after I found out about what she did, regardless of her intentions and the fact that he's not around anymore. She's not the Ronald McDonald House. She doesn't have to be out there granting wishes. Or the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I'd much rather call my the Make-A-Wish Foundation than the Ronald McDonald House. Hey dude, sorry you're in this situation. I think there is something you should consider. And I will give you this from the perspective of a guy who has been married 9 years and with my wife for 13 total. If my ex or her ex asked to meet up and my wife didn't tell me, that is a bad thing. I would not care if the person reached out and if my wife wanted to go, but the hiding it hints that there are other things going on. Then she planned an entire night away with him and lied to you about it. That she slept with another person while you were in a relationship with her, and my assumption is you are not in an open relationship. If your girlfriend is loyal to you, or is showing loyalty to you by telling you, I think the event would have happened similar to this. She would have told you her ex reached out to you and that he is sick. Then if she went, she would have come back to you and discussed the proposal. Then you could have figured out if it would work, or if you were both willing for this to happen. Then it happens or it doesn't. The sneaking around about it leads me to think there are other issues in your relationship that needs to be looked at. Good luck. This is the real root of the issue. The act hurts, but the holding back of the initial meeting is the real problem. Why didn't she feel like she could share that with you? Can you be in a relationship where you can't share with your partner? This should have been a conversation at minimum. Good luck in whatever choice you make. I'm sorry you were betrayed. I've read similar stories here. There was one story of an ex-wife. She had cheated, leading to the divorce, whose dying wish was to have her remarried ex-husband come spend some time with her. She'd wanted cuddling and stuff, and to pretend they were still married one last time. He wasn't comfortable with this, but felt bad for her, so he ran it by his very understanding new wife, who set some boundaries in place. He was able to go see his ex one last time, dinner and a movie with her and her sister, no cuddling, and then came home. That was the proper way to do this. Communication and boundaries. Not a pity hookup that she is then guilting you over. This would be a relationship ender for me. I'm sorry she is so crappy and that she is now mourning, to your face, the guy she cheated on you with. This is the correct response. My thoughts while reading the responses was that, if I was currently with a partner who I adored, but an ex-partner put this request to me, I would decline. But wouldn't be against meeting up to chat or reminisce if it would help them. But it would all be discussed with my current partner. She clearly wanted to do it. The fact she didn't even disclose the original message is a red flag. Then lied and set up the evening with him, cheated, and now feels guilty. Be prepared to be made to feel guilty about this OP, which you don't deserve. Feel free to read her some of the better responses on this post if you don't feel like defending yourself anymore. Good luck. No more need be said. The relationship ended the moment she made that decision, and more than likely she'd lose all respect for him if he were to let it slide anyway. If I were in your shoes, I couldn't forgive her. Loyalty shows in moments like this, and she clearly didn't have it. I agree with you. She wants you to forgive her so she can feel better, not anything for you. More selfish behavior. If she was thinking of you, she would not try to guilt trip you into forgiving her. I'm not dismissing the fact she feels guilt, that is certain. I feel she is trying to guilt trip you into helping her feel better. Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. He doesn't know any better. Follow up. Original post. My parents, dad is 54 and mom is 52, are angry with me for not ignoring my older brother's 32 predatory behavior. Just a little context about my older brother and the situation at hand. My brother is 32 years old. He's never had a job. He dropped out of community college after 2 semesters for never doing his assignments. He's lived with my parents his entire life. He sleeps all day and stays up all night playing video games and watching adult vids. Both my brother and I, 27 male, are diagnosed autistic and present our symptoms similarly. But I've been working since I was 17. Got my driver's license at 17, bought my first car at 24 and started college in 2019. My parents constantly use my brother's autism as an excuse for his appalling behavior, even though we're both on the spectrum. In November of 2020, I moved back in with my parents because I left a horrible relationship and had chronic health issues. I met my current girlfriend, 23 female, in mid-2021, and in early 2022 she had some extenuating circumstances where my family agreed to let her live with us. My brother was immediately pleased with this development, but just as quickly behaved inappropriately. It started off with him creepily staring anytime my girlfriend and I kissed, progressed to him following my girlfriend into the bathroom anytime he saw her go in there for a shower, until he figured out she always locked the door because of him. And the straw that broke the camel's back was him trying to come into our bedroom uninvited and without knocking, at 3 in the morning while we slept. Every time he behaved inappropriately, we mentioned it to my parents, but all that really happened were excuses made for him, because he's autistic, and brief conversation with him about not doing those things again, and then him still doing whatever he wanted. Anyway, after the bedroom incident, they kicked my girlfriend out, making her homeless for a brief period of time, because she had a PTSD panic attack since my brother made her feel unsafe. As a result of this, my girlfriend and I got an apartment together, and I moved out because I didn't want to be in the same house as my brother. I was upset with the way my girlfriend was treated, and I wasn't willing to break up with her, which my parents wanted me to do. I had a calm conversation with my parents explaining why I was moving out, where I explained it's their house so they're more than entitled to make rules concerning their own home. However, I was not going to continue living somewhere my girlfriend wasn't welcome, and where my brother's predatory behavior was condoned. At first they told me they love me, they're sorry they ever made me feel that way, that they want me to keep a key to the house because I'm always welcome over, and that if I ever needed to move back and I could. Several days later, I went over to pick up some more of my things, only to find that my parents had changed the locks on the door. Later that same week they tell me they're angry with me for being ungrateful, saying I hate them, and calling them bad parents, none of which I ever said. They went on to tell me that they didn't want to speak to me for a week because they were upset, needed time to process, and because they thought I needed to feel what it was like to be cut out of the family. I respected their wishes, and later my parents agreed to family therapy, which they quickly backed out of because they were only willing to do it over a 3-way video call, and my therapist website wasn't able to do that. I'm not sure why, but my therapist said it wasn't doable, at which point I told my parents I would be willing to attend family therapy with a therapist of their choice who could do the 3-way video call, but that had yet to happen. That same Sunday my parents invited me over for dinner, which I thought went well, only to find they would continue to dodge my calls and leave my texts on read after that night. They eventually contacted me and told me to stop using their house as storage and to pick up my things, despite requesting that I stay away for a week. My girlfriend and I go over to pick up the rest of our stuff, which was awkward but quick. Later that day I got a text from my mom wishing me luck at college, but my parents still aren't willing to talk about the issues that led to me moving out, or even to come over to see our new apartment after being invited over, because despite the circumstances I still love them and want a relationship with them, since this type of behavior is highly uncharacteristic of them. Understandably, my girlfriend isn't fond of them, but told me she doesn't mind me inviting my parents over because it's important to her that I have a relationship with my parents for the sake of my mental well-being. Has anyone else ever dealt with a situation similar to this? If so, how did you deal with it? Honestly, man, I would just cut your losses for now with your parents and brother, go start your own family and be happy. Maybe they will come around sooner or later and y'all can actually start rebuilding your relationship when they are willing to listen to your words. They're giving excuses to awful behavior with your brother, and therefore he will never be better. They don't want to acknowledge their own bad parenting with him either. I know it's hard to lose a relationship with your family, but they seem like they are always going to show favoritism to your brother for little to no reason other than coddling. If you really want to repair the relationship, I can't see how you would do so without there being several serious discussions with your parents that they are receptive to, or at least become receptive to eventually. In my opinion, it's not worth feeling unwelcome in your own home, your girlfriend getting kicked out over your brother's awful behavior, and them getting angry at you for you not liking how badly they are coddling your brother if they won't listen at all. Maybe some time apart and some strict boundaries with your parents could give you both some time to sit on things and think about what's going on. Then you could come back to them and try the conversation again. Also, putting some space between you will make it easier to say no to the inevitable. We're getting older. Now it's your turn to take care of brother in a few years. When you do try to start your own family, make sure your brother is never allowed around your wife and children. Your parents aren't willing to do the work to repair the relationship. They want you to chase after them to prove to themselves that they are right and you are wrong. Time for you to drop the rope. Stop asking them to come over. Stop calling. Stop telling them anything about your life. They would rather protect and coddle your brother rather than admit there is a problem with his actions. You can live your life and still love them, but you don't have their support. Love them from afar and love yourself and your peace of mind more. They have done nothing but make excuses and hurt you. They have shown you who they are. Believe them. It hurts, but you need to drop the rope. The ball is in their court. I don't believe they will pick it up. This is sound advice. I wonder if they contact you when you aren't contacting them. Then they crap on you again. Think of it like this: you stop, they start, you stop, they reel you back in. Continue the loop. Next time they contact you, just give them a pass and watch them start to grovel for your attention the more you ignore their offers. I want to suggest that you let your parents know that in the future you have no intention of allowing your brother to live with you, nor will you be responsible for his ongoing care. They majorly contributed to how your brother is today, so they need to be responsible to ensure whatever arrangements needed for when they are no longer able to care for him are in place. Example, if they leave him their house to live in, they better make sure he is capable of doing what is needed to keep it up and pay the associated utilities and whatnot, or have an organization that will do that part for him. And congratulations on moving out on your own. I made it very clear 2 years ago that after they pass, I will not support my brother in any way, shape, or form. He's actually hated by the entire family for his behavior with the exception of my parents. My grandfather outright told me that my brother's choices and lifestyle bother him so much that I'm in his will and my brother isn't. Now for the first update. I've been working through some things in therapy and I had a bit of an epiphany. For years, I thought my parents were giving me a favor by letting me live with them, but things started to unravel the more I thought about it and talked to my therapist. I'm currently 27, but I didn't start living on my own until I was 22 and always thought I was a failure or a late bloomer. But then I remembered I tried moving out on my own when I was 20. I found a friend was willing to be my roommate at that time, and we were apartment hunting together. I eventually told my parents I wanted to move out, and my mom told me they wouldn't be able to afford the rent for their apartment if I wasn't there to pitch in, and my dad asked me, "How are you gonna find a roommate? You can't even find someone to hang out with you on your birthday." When I lived with them, I didn't give them all my money from work, but I could never save more than $500 because they would inevitably fall behind on some bill, and I would have to help. And a lot of times I didn't have the money to help, so it was normal for me to sell my things at a pawn shop to pitch in, which was never asked of my older brother. I only had to stop contributing to my parents' finances once we were homeless in 2018 and reconnected with my extended family who let us couch surf, and they told my parents they thought it was weird I gave them so much money. When my parents lived in New York and I lived alone in Texas for 2 years, I was actually thriving, with the exception of my horrible ex and chronic health issues. I dropped 120 pounds, I was on the honor roll at my college, and I bought a car. I was doing so well. Later, my mother admitted to me she was actually angry and resentful toward me for getting my first job at 17, because the government took away my disability money that she was managing. I feel like that's one reason why my older brother is still treated as the golden child. He still gets disability that my mom manages 100% and is fairly obedient to her. It just made me think, wow, sorry I'm such a disappointment because I wasn't an obedient little disability check for you, and I wanted a life of my own. I was also molested in my school in first grade by a neighbor's teenage son, and when I asked my mom why she wasn't more protective of me, she said, "I was so concerned with making sure that never happened to your brother, that it never occurred to me that it could happen to you." I used to think my parents were very moral and ethical people, but the more therapy I go to, the more I'm noticing patterns. For example, my mom was always doing research on narcissists and claiming that all my grandparents were narcissists, and that's why we went no contact with them for over a decade, which at the time when I was a kid I believed her. But then I realized a classic narcissist tactic is to isolate people from others who can help them. I even remember being a freshman in high school and my mom scaring me by convincing me that my grandfather had hired private investigators to stalk us, which, knowing my grandfather now that I'm an adult, is something he'd never do. Sorry for the rant, but I needed to get this out somewhere. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, but I'm glad you were able to finally find answers. Sadly, favoritism is a thing, especially with narcissistic parents. My no mom would favor my older brother more, and in general was an absolute leech. She not only sucked the money out of anyone that she could, but she also sucked the life out of me. Therapy helps a lot with finding answers and trying to come to terms with the outcomes of it all. Just know that you are a strong person, and any battles you are struggling with, you will come out of it stronger. Thank you, that's really appreciated. Now that you know you have a narcissist mom, at least you can steel yourself up to make sure you don't fall for her manipulation. I hope you have learned to say no anytime she asks for money. Let them deal with their own crazy without getting yourself into it. Good luck and try to keep them out of your life as much as possible. Now for the latest update. A while back, I, 27 male, shared a post in this group about my older brother's, 31, inappropriate and predatory behavior toward my girlfriend, 23, and how my parents were condoning and making excuses for his behavior. The excuse being that he's autistic, so he doesn't know any better, even though both of us are autistic, and both of us are considered high-functioning and low support needs. Anyway, since the incident, my girlfriend and I have gotten an apartment together and things have been going well. My parents have been very low contact because they're salty that I didn't dump my girlfriend and excuse my brother's creepy behavior. During this whole situation, my grandfather has been nothing short of a rock for me. He and my step-grandmother have been offering me advice, helped me get career counseling services, wants to help with my tuition now that I'm back in college, and have offered to buy plane tickets for both my girlfriend and I to fly cross-country to spend Thanksgiving with them and get the opportunity to introduce my girlfriend to them. He's been very clear that he sides with me on the disagreement with my parents because he doesn't agree with my brother's behavior, and has stated the obvious that my parents don't seem to grasp, which is that I'm a grown man and can date who I want and live my life as I see fit. I feel really lucky to have him around, but at the same time, I'm still incredibly frustrated with my parents. I have a large extended family, and I've heard through the grapevine that my parents want me to move back with them, but on their terms, and they're going low contact with me to teach me a lesson. And all I can think is, what kind of delusional fairy tale world do they live in, where I would abandon a healthy relationship with my girlfriend and having my own place, to move back in with them, just to be the scapegoat for all of my brother's BS. You'd be surprised at how delusional some autism parents can be about their autistic offspring. They've centered their life around your brother and therefore assume that you are as reliant on them, when in reality, you've grown wings to fly away. Let them think they're winning, and quietly block them on social media. You'll be the healthier for it. P.S. As an autistic person, your brother's autism is no excuse. He's just a prick. The thing is, my mom can barely even claim to be an autism parent. We've both been diagnosed for over 14 years, and I had to explain to her what stimming was last year, which shows me she doesn't know a damn thing about it. She just uses autism as an excuse whenever my brother acts like a pervert. One day your brother is going to learn the hard way. Sucks that you'll actually have to successfully victimize someone to see charges though. I was talking about him grabbing someone, and their boyfriend doesn't take that very well, and long story short, brother in hospital. I would honestly pay good money just to see him get beat down after all the nonsense he gets away with. But he won't do that since he's a coward and a shut-in. The only reason he targeted my girlfriend is because my parents, brother, girlfriend, and I were all living together at one point, and he thought he could get away with it sharing a living space, since any retaliation would be met with his mommy coming to rescue him and justify his behavior. Brother is going to creep the wrong woman one day, and I highly doubt the judge will accept he's autistic as a defense. You're not wrong, but knowing my mother, she'll get the creep a good lawyer. I have to wonder how your brother is going to function once your parents pass on. He won't, and I will laugh watching him struggle to figure out adult life for the first time in his 50s or 60s. This is why your parents want you to come back, to be the caregiver. I already told them years ago that when they die, I'm not helping him and he's on his own. Yikes at them using their kid for disability income, and then making him pay them once he started working. And I don't understand them kicking out the girlfriend when brother barged in. Makes zero sense unless OP neglected to mention that there was a big argument or fight over it afterwards. Whole thing is very bereft of details, honestly, but sounds like OP thrives away from his parents, so good for him.